Hello, my lovely, lovely witches. It is Book of Shadows number 20, time to flip through. Now, this guy is a bit of a monster. As you can see, quite chunky, because I always do chunky. But it's also, I really, really loved working in this format, this square sort of format. But I think we're going to struggle to fully get it in frame, but I will do my best. My little overhead tripod-y thing only goes up so far. So here we are. This one took surprisingly less time than I thought it would to fill, partly because, as I've said before, I don't have a huge amount of time at the moment. But I'm making time. I'm really making time for my practice. And also because it's a 3 signature big chunker-munker book, which, as I've said before, again, I have been making my books a bit smaller so that they don't get quite so behemoth. So, Behemoth Book of Shadows. Here we go. This little Sacred Heart I actually created a very long time ago. I made a whole lot of different ones out of cardboard and painted them and added gems and jewels and things. And I found this one the other day when I was flipping through my studio. This is just some old fabric that I have covered my book in. And on the inside, ta-da, we have some little bits and pieces in the collage. This has been stuck in again for my Wheel of the Year dates. That needs to be glued down. Ephemera from all over the place. A lot from various friends doing swaps. Also some things I've purchased and some things I've made. This was my full moon in Scorpio spread for the full moon in May, which I'm quite pleased with how that one came out. It just sort of works. This is from that colouring book. Oh, again, I point things out and I'm like, ooh, look at my nails. They're dirty because I've been creating. So, caveat as always, sorry for my dirty nails. So yeah, this is from this colouring in book of shadows, and although this is the Southern Hemisphere version, it's just a replication of the Northern Hemisphere but swapped around by 6 months. So this actually says snow moon, and we've had these conversations before about how some of the names for the moons that are out there are used quite a lot in, say, Northern America, just don't relate to where I live. Even if you do swap them around by 6 months. We don't get snow in this part of Australia. There are parts of Australia where it snows, but not very many. And they are all in the eastern states. So it doesn't snow in South Australia. So I just changed this to rain moon, which is exactly what my moon is called in May. And it is when the rains start to come. I was only chatting with a friend overseas the other day, and I was saying how, it doesn't rain much in summer. It does rain in winter, but we actually still have a very, very low rainfall. Our annual rainfall is about 500 millimeters a year. Sorry, my American friends, I can't convert that. Stick that into Google to convert it into inches. I don't know what that is in inches. I'm not good with inches. Anyway, so that was my May moon. Now there's a lot of the pages in here. This is actually quite visual because a lot of them are the Grimoire 52 pages, and some of the other prompts that I've also been doing, or courses that I've been doing, or things on various Patreons that I subscribe to. This one was Heart of Gemstone for Grimoire 52. And this is another Grimoire 52, the shield I carry. This one turned out nicely. Again, I'm just loving this shape. I might make future books in this shape. It's cool. I'm liking it. It's not, I mean, this was purely because I found a book that in the op shop that I decided I wanted mostly for collage fodder because it was all about astronomy, and it was, yeah, as I said, just a really cool shape. So I was like, I want to do this. This is fun. So yeah, I'm liking it. Oh, this is a really, really pretty spell. This is the butterfly spell. This is an adaptation of one from, it's a Cassandra Eason book. I think it's the, something to do with witchcraft through nature. Gosh. It's not, I'm in my library and it should be on the shelf, and I'm looking to my right, and probably why my voice has gone weird, and it's not there. So I can't even show it to you. I'm sorry. It's probably out of print. It's a million years old, so I probably should just move on. Anyway, it's about change essentially, and what you can do with that. You're supposed to create butterflies in a sense. I've written my sort of spell answers to these questions on this, so I'm not going to show those to you. But I did create this little and each of the butterflies represents something. The original spell, I think, suggested that you could actually count real butterflies in your garden or somewhere, but you know me, I like to make it into an art magic spell. So these are all my various sort of spell elements as represented by butterflies. So I'm just going to try and tuck that up. That really bulked up my book, but how fun was it? It was fun. That was my comfy, cozy, witchy for May. This was just a little image that I liked, and it's okay to do that. Your Book of Shadows, grimoire, magical book, however you describe it, can have whatever you want in it. I've said it before, but if you're new to my channel, hello, welcome. And you enjoy, you want to do more with your Book of Shadows, your grimoire, you want to do maybe some art magic, or maybe you don't. Maybe you just want to record your words are hard, your practice and your craft. That can just include, I like this thing and it feels witchy to me. You have permission to do that. There are no grimoire police coming around saying, well, no, that's not witchy enough, and that's not a spell, and that's not a, you know, piece of specific witch information. You can't put that in your grimoire. You put whatever you damn well want in your grimoire. So I looked at this with the fox and the toad and the bones and the horns, and I'm just like, that just feels uber witchy to me, and I liked it, so I stuck it into my book. It's from another book I purchased in the op shop purely for collaging, that was all on sort of wildlife of Britain, and it's got gorgeous illustrations. Yep, this is a pocket of secrets. So, you know, there's just stuff. Secrets. This was my sacred vessel and the things that went into my sacred vessel. I shared on Instagram the actual vessel, which was a matryoshka or babushka doll that I found in the op shop again. For those of you in other countries, an op shop in Australia is a charity store. So op shop, charity store, whatever you want to call it. It was a single one. It didn't have any companions inside it the way they're supposed to. It was a bit fugly, if I'm honest, but I just saw the potential of it for doing something art magic-y, and then came across another creator on Instagram. Her handle is Selcouth Sister, and she had created out of clay and a jar and paint and what have you a sacred vessel for her word of the year. And as soon as I saw it, I was obsessed, because it is such a cool idea. And so I pulled out that babushka doll and I decoupaged and I painted and I put my word on it, and then I filled it with sacred herbs that related to the nurture, and some other ingredients, and created my sacred vessel. And it's been sitting on my altar for a long time, but I have recently just moved it into my dining room. I don't always know why a certain thing needs to be in a certain spot, and that spot changes. Sometimes it's just enough to be, yep, that's where it has to be. So that was my sacred vessel. This was another Grimoire 52, Alchemical Mastery. Using my homemade alchemy stamps around the outside. They were the very first stamps I made after a very long time. I made, well, not so much stamps, but lino cuts. So I did a lot of printmaking when I was at university and studying art. And lino cuts were my preferred medium. And I bought a little stamp making kit with some rubber, and these were the first things I made with that kit. They're not great, I have to admit, but I still love them and I still use them. So yeah, this was from Mon Crane Patreon. Whatever month this was, I don't know if I've got a date on here. It doesn't look like I do. Whatever month this was, the sort of archetype of the month that we were exploring was the remembered child, and her sort of prompt or art spell, art thing, what's the right word for it? Art activity, maybe, for that month was to do a sort of choose your own adventure book. And as much as I actually as a kid loved the old choose your own adventure books, I'm not a writing witch. So creative writing, I just wasn't feeling it. It's a great idea. It's one thing I find Vanessa comes up with incredible ideas. But you know what it's like. Even if you're doing a course or following a Patreon, you don't have to do everything the way that creator is suggesting. I take the idea and move it into something else. And that's exactly what I did. I took 4 very distinct childhood memories and wrote them down in my book. This one was about the night stars and looking at the stars and naming the stars with my dad, who is an upper atmosphere physicist. So he was very much a skeptic and an atheist and very scientific. So everything that he taught me about was all about science and fact and proven and all of that sort of stuff. So he did like to talk to us about the night stars, and I loved those sessions, but I also found the night stars quite magical. The orange crock pot, you can pause this and read this if you really want to. It was a restaurant. It was amazing. I will never forget it, and I wish it still existed. Beechwood. This really is the little nature sprite child within me. I'm not really much of an earth witch. I wish I was. I love nature, but I grounding and connecting with the earth itself, I find quite difficult. I resonate with plant energies and use them in spellwork, but as much as I try, I have no earth in my natal chart, you know, no earth signs in my natal chart. I'm just, yeah, I'm not really, I'm a water and air and stuff in my natal chart, so it's hard for me. Anyway, I'm getting completely off topic, but this was definitely me enjoying and understanding a relationship with nature as a child. There was an open garden scheme here in South Australia, and my parents were, mum particularly, but were quite avid gardeners. We had a beautiful garden at home. I wish I could say the same for myself, but I don't. And we went to this garden called Beechwood, and it was autumn, because I remember there were autumn leaves everywhere, and Beechwood naturally had beech trees everywhere, and I have forevermore been in love with the beech tree. It's clearly not native to Australia, so it's an introduced species, and there actually aren't that many of them here. It's a little bit warm a climate for beeches, but I was entranced. I think we only went there once, but it just spoke to me. This place was just, the memory is so strong, and I think I would have been maybe 7 or 8, maybe a bit older, I don't know, but it's just such a strong memory. And then the other one, this was also a restaurant called the Winter Garden, and we used to go there mostly in winter. It was a small shopping centre in a little bit in the middle of nowhere in the hills, and some friends of my parents had a little shop there where they sold potpourri and Liberty fabrics predominantly. Strange combo, but it was the 80s. Potpourri was big. And we used to go there sometimes on a weekend, and we would have lunch in this restaurant called the Winter Garden that had a glass roof, and there were all these ferns, and I loved it. We did that a lot. We went to the Winter Garden many, many times, and it was really special. So that was my remembered child. I chose some memories and recounted them. This was another Grimoire 52. Follow the thread with the labyrinth. And I also had Medusa in here. Now, I will be bringing you a video in a little while. I'm working on a project at the moment about Medusa, and so I will talk about that. But she's been popping up in everything. Everywhere I turn, she seems to pop up a lot, and has been all of this year. So I've decided to explore that. So yes, this is the follow the thread. New moon in Taurus. Oh, that's firmly stuck in there. Doesn't need to come out. Another Grimoire 52, looking to future witches. More Grimoire 52. I said this is very heavily Grimoire 52 because, to be fair, I hadn't been doing huge amounts of other witchcraft practice or witchcraft study in this period. So a lot of what you'll see in this Book of Shadows is just the art magic explorations that I've been doing, particularly as I've got my Wheel of the Year grimoire going at the moment. So a lot of the seasonal stuff is going into there. So this was just old magic. This is a spell that I did. My Win the TV spell. We had... I work for a construction company, and we had just finished a really, really big project on site, and they had 10 very large, I think they're 65-inch TVs that they'd used on site for 2 years, and they needed to sell them. So they decided to offer them to staff at a very low price, and if there were more than the 10 people that that wanted them, then it would be a lottery. So, and of course there was 30 odd people that wanted them, and so I was like, well, right, I'm a witch. I got this down. I am going to win one of these TVs. So I did a spell. It'll win the TV spell. This is my little spell, and ta-da! I wasn't the first name called out, but I was the second. Thank you. So witchcraft works, people. So I was very happy about that. And I now have a TV that is redonkulous in size, but it's kind of cool. It's a bit like being at the movies. I kind of like it. It's, yeah. It's insane, guys. I still can't get used to it. I've had it since June, but oh my God, I still can't get used to the size of it. It looked a lot smaller sitting in the warehouse at work than it does sitting in my tiny living room. This is just a little simmer pot recipe that I made one day. I was thinking about making tea and just started chucking stuff into a simmer pot. You know, it happens. This is a little self-care spell jar that I did. And I decided to make not just the spell jar itself, but also a mini spell jar for my book, which I really like. And I'd like to do this again. It's the kind of thing that does bulk up your book, but how cute is this? So those were the things that went into it. And this was just a little reading list from May, June, books that I was reading. I'm still reading some of those. Some of them one of them I haven't even started. Oh, and I have started it. I've read about 3 pages. Okay. Another Grimoire 52, The Possibility of Tomorrow. New Moon in Gemini, that's got my intentions underneath there with a little sort of flip out, which I've put together with this adorable mermaid paperclip. This was just something out of a magazine that I liked, so I cut it out and stuck it into my Book of Shadows. Familiars and Spirits for Grimoire 52, and a little bit of information on fairy rings, mostly just because I'm completely obsessed with mushrooms and wanted to create a fairy ring in my book. That's okay too. Obsessions are great starting points for creating both art and magic. Do it. My June moon colouring in, and this was it's not really a spell about passion, more of a reflection, I suppose, because I was contemplating the concept of I don't mean a sexual passion, I mean a sort of a passion about topics, or a bit like my obsessions, I suppose, my mushroom obsession and my passion for art, or my passion for witchcraft. I was exploring those themes and how, they all, where do they stem from? They mostly stem from the mind. How are we stimulated by that? It was just, I was just thinking, and underneath my little butterflies here are some words as well associated with my thoughts. And this is another Grimoire 52 page, which was The Body Holds the Knowledge. It's a mess. It is. Sometimes you create things and you're like, yeah, that's good. And then other times you're like, no. So, no. But that's okay. Completely blank page, just because this scrapbooking paper is so pretty. So there it is. This was just a quote that I really, really liked. And so I've sort of made it a little affirmation page. You can start late, look different, be uncertain, and still succeed. That was some art magic I don't really feel the need to go into the details of. This was all about my Yule celebrations, although I did do obviously lots of pages about Yule in my Wheel of the Year grimoire. I also just written some notes and things about how I spent the day. We were given a wellness day that we could use in a 3-month period, and it had to be used by the end of June. and I chose to use it for Yule, so I took the day off work. This paper is actually from a bottle of wine that I had, a very fancy bottle of wine that I had for the celebration. And I also caught up with some friends on that. And there's a little bit of information about Yule and this little sort of spread. And then in here are my wishes for the coming year. And in this pocket we have my Muses of Mystery ritual booklet. I've gone back to subscribing to the Sabbath box. I missed it, so I went back to it. A little bit of information about labyrinths. I'm finding a lot of Greek mythology is just popping up. Labyrinths are something that are coming up a lot. And as I said before, Medusa is popping up. And just some of the other Greek gods and goddesses seem to be making themselves present in my life, which is interesting. Another Grimoire 52 of release. And that's some things in here that I wanted to release in the cauldron. Out the window, through the door, also for Grimoire 52. And just some thoughts that I had. I just had this desperate desire to be a hobbit. And so I made a hobbit hole, or smile as they are called, with a hobbity garden for my out the window, through the door spread. This one was the Siren's Call. Not sure how much of that we'll be able to get into frame. This was some snail mail from Molly Roberts, Rainbow Blessing, that she sent. Comfy Cozy Witchy for June. This one was Personal Fairy Dust. So there's some Personal Fairy Dust in this little envelope. This, I was looking at the, okay, my brain's gone. Those personality tests. Turns out mine is the mediator. So I did some notes. This is just, it's all very boring. Did some notes on that personality type. I found it interesting. I don't know that I fully subscribe to anyone's specific method of determining who we are as archetypes, people, personality types, any of that sort of stuff. But I do find it interesting, and sometimes I find it it can give you some knowledge that you didn't know. This was something else that I had been researching about inner power and how to use it. Oh, this was an altar polish oil that I created. I noticed that my altar, last time I swapped it over, which was obviously in July, well, not last time, but this particular time that I swapped it over and redid it, the wood was looking pretty dry, and I thought, I really need to oil it rather than just clean it. And then I thought to myself, well, why not make a magical wood polish specifically just for my altar? So I used some commercial wood polish oil, but then I added the lemon, clove, cinnamon and rose fragrance oil to it to give it a sort of cleansing vibe, cleansing / protection vibe to it. This was my comfy, cozy, witchy for July. Again, this is some Molly Roberts snail mail ephemera. I'm getting better at using my hoarding. I have a tendency to hoard things that are special that have been created by other art witches. I do a lot of art stash, ephemera stash swaps and things with people. I also purchase supplies, you know, handmade ephemera from people. And I then tend to hoard them. And I'm getting much, much better at not hoarding them, but actually using them. Because even though they are beautiful and special, there is no point in them sitting in a box in my studio and never being used. Absolutely no point at all. Why buy them or why swap them with friends if you're not going to use them? So I've been really good at using stuff that I've swapped, and it's quite exciting. It gives you a whole lot of new materials to use. Celestial Witch, also Grimoire 52. And the Spiral of a Time, Grimoire 52. I love spirals. This was a spread about cancer season, which I got to say, this year, cancer season was a doozy. Oh my God, all of the emotions felt way too deeply. And then we come to my inbox celebrations, which under there is the plans that I had. And this was my Muses of Mystery Sabbath box for in bulk. New Moon in Cancer, and my intentions on the back of these little cards. A spell jar that I did. July moon colouring page. As above, so below. I'm not sure if that was Grimoire 52 or something else that I was working through. Gift of Stillness, that was definitely Grimoire 52. Super full moon in Aquarius. And the August full moon colouring page. Grimoire 52, Zodiacal Theatre. And the next few pages are actually a zine from La Green Witch that I really liked. So I printed it off and stuck it into my book. Really liked it. It's really cool. Oh, I've glued my pages together again there. I do it all the time. And then Waxing Moon, Waning Moon for Grimoire 52. Very pleased with how that turned out. It just embodied what I was feeling. This is an article on sound walking, which I found really interesting. And then just a collage in the back cover of the book. That's it. Grimoire number 20. Book number 20. I hope you have enjoyed this little look through the last few months of my Book of Shadows journey. As always, talk to me down below. Tell me what you have been up to. That reminds me, I have a massive, massive apology. I hope that the people that this apology goes to are still watching at the end of this video. So I have been using the YouTube Studio app on my phone for the notification of and replying to comments on my videos. I find YouTube really frustrating for notifications. You know, you've got the opposite problem with something like Facebook and Instagram, where it notifies you every time someone farts. But YouTube doesn't tell you anything. And so I've been using the YouTube Studio app, and I've been, you know, going into the section that says comments I haven't replied to. Perfect. Seeing everyone's comments. This is great, and replying to them. Not realizing that replies to replies are under another tab. WTF, but they are. So for the last, how long have I been on YouTube? 3 years or something. I have been ignoring replies to my replies. And some of you guys have said some really beautiful things. Some of you have even offered gifts and all sorts of stuff that it seems that I've very rudely just ignored you. I didn't know you'd done this. I didn't know you'd commented, and I didn't know you'd replied. And I feel so bad about it. I can only blame my ineptitude of understanding how to use the app, or I can blame YouTube for just being dickheads with their platform and the way they work their platform. It is stupid. So a deeply heartfelt apology to anyone who replied to a comment that I'd made and then didn't receive an answer. I feel terrible. I started to go through and try and reply to some of those comments, and then at the end of the day, I thought, you probably won't even know, because you don't get notified when someone comments back to you half the time anyway. So if you ever made a comment on one of my videos and I didn't reply, I wasn't ignoring you, and I feel terrible. Please accept my apologies. So do comment down below. If I reply to you and you reply back to me, hopefully I should know, because I finally sorted out how to actually do that. Or hit me up on Instagram. You can DM me on Instagram. You can, you know, make a comment in one of my posts, whatever. I do love to hear from you guys, and I love to hear what you're up to, what you're doing in your books, what magic you're making. Show me what magic you've done. Particularly if it's something that, you know, you've been like, oh, that particular thing that you did inspired me, because I think that's how this beautiful circle of inspiration goes around. I get inspired by you guys, guys get inspired by me, and it's, you know, this beautiful sort of Ouroboros of inspiration and creativity. So let me know, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye, my lovelies.